This channel is for educational purposes only. Please do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. Hi, welcome back to Invest Like a Pro. This is Joe Rabil. So today's video, I'm going to go through the market conditions and talk about the S&P, focus on the spider. And when I get into the multiple time frame analysis, I want to look at the price. I want to look at the trend using moving averages to confirm the trend. And then I also want to look at the MACD and the ADX and also look at the volume as well. So let's go ahead and go through these conditions first, and then we'll get into the charts. Okay, as we start the market conditions, we're going to start with the sentiment at the bottom here. The difference between the bullish advisors and the bearish advisors is now 22%. So we were around almost 40% when we peaked up here. And so this keeps dropping. The number of bulls keeps dropping, but not to the same degree. We've got more bears showing up. So, that increases the likelihood that this low is maybe a little bit more important. So we want to keep that in the back of our mind. Now, it's not really it's a neutral signal right now. It's not to a point where we've gotten so bearish that we want to go outright and be a buyer. And we haven't lost enough bulls to get to that point either. The overbought oversold oscillator is at 63. It didn't quite reach oversold, and now it hasn't quite reached overbought. So both of those are in the neutral camp right now. I think a key that we need to keep an eye on is what's going on with the average true range. You see how as this keeps moving up, we're seeing this average true range line really start to drop off here over the last 3-4 days. And that's telling us that the size of the bars, the average true range of the bars is shrinking. Especially you can see it in these last couple days. They're really tiny. So that is more of the nature of a uptrend when we have smaller bars, less volatility. You tend to have follow through from that. Now, we're going to get into the details of the trends and everything, but I just want to keep this in the back of my mind and know right now it's bearish. We're still above a rising 18 on the daily time frame. So there's a lot of volatility. That tells me that I probably don't want to be buying here. I'm looking for what kind of strength do the sellers have. If the next day or two we come back down closer to the 18 and this keeps shrinking, you're going to come down through this line, and then you're going to have a match. You're going to have a sign that the risk is diminishing based on the volatility, and we're going to have some kind of a signal closer to the 18-day, and we're not up 4 or 5 days in a row. So that's kind of what I'm watching for. I want to see if we can flip this back to at least neutral, and I think if we do that, it might end up turning it to positive, because all we need to do is really turn the moving average down. Now, the weekly hasn't really changed much. It hasn't really budged, and what we've been talking about is the potential for this 18 area to hold. Not, necessarily exactly, which it did. I thought maybe it wanted to climb down through a little bit, but the fact is that this is a stronger line when this is decreasing. All right, I want to repeat that. When these two lines are moving up like this, I want to look at the volatility. And if the volatility is staying low or declining, I should say, then we sort of want to assume that these lines are going to hold. All right, so want to think that way. Now, again, there wasn't any changes in the trend or the momentum this week. It will change over the course of the next few days, over the next week or so, is my guess, depending on how things play out here. So we want to keep an eye on that. Let's go ahead and get into these trends now. Now, I wanted to leave the trend lines that I had all these trend lines up last week. I wanted to leave them in place because I want to make sure, if anyone's watching for the first time, I like to look at the 18 MA on each time frame, and an 18-month helps to confirm a 1, 2, 3. So here's the 1, 2, 3, and that's exactly where the monthly was crossing back above its 18-month line. Now, last week we had a 1, that's a break of the trend line. 2 was the rally up to the 18. And what I said was, if we come down and break this line, we're going to be breaking the 18 week, and we're going to have a 1, 2, 3 on the daily chart, and we're going to be breaking the 18 week line here, and that's going to confirm a more corrective action and potentially even a pullback back to the 18-month line. But what happened was actually the opposite. We had a 1, 2, 3, 1 here, 2 is the test, 3 coming up, and notice the big green bar. I want you guys to reference these big green bars. Whenever you see, and this is out of my course, whenever you see a big green bar at a critical point, meaning if it looks like that's a turning point or a 3 or coming up off of a 2, right? Or you're getting divergence and you're looking for some kind of a signal, or you're coming up through the 18 or something like that, you always want to look to see if there's a big green bar there, because that'll typically confirm what you're thinking. So be on the lookout for that. So this was a pretty confirming looking bar here coming up through this prior resistance, which happened to be this huge red bar right here, the high of that red bar. When we took that out, that was basically flipping, getting ourselves through the 18-day and at the same time creating a 1, 2, 3 to the upside. Now, if you notice, we've got really good momentum associated with this. Now, actually, I want to zero in on this for a sec. Well, actually, let's talk about the daily chart, because I think what we've got to watch here, because the volatility is high, we want to see how this checks back, how this, pauses or checks back or pulls back. If we get high volatility pullback, then we're probably going to break the 18, because that average true range is going to stay strong, and this zero line is going to, instead of getting through the zero line, we're going to fail at the zero line and potentially reverse back down through the signal line. So we have to watch. Do we get 2 lower highs here that comes back up and we get a pinch play to develop? If we do it that way, then we have to take that long trade, I think, because the size of these bars will probably be small. The 18 will be turning back to the upside. We've held the 18 week here. Yes, it would be optimum to get, and it'll probably spill into next week. So this is only one bar. For Friday, we get a pullback, and then we get another pullback into Monday. Then next week, we'll have dipped down a little bit and come down closer to testing, maybe not completely, but testing towards the 18 week line. And then we'd have, really a signal that is confirmed on both time frames. Because there's overrun on the weekly MACD, I'd like to see a little bit of a check back here and not take the first signal. So when I say the first signal, I'm saying this 1, 2, 3. This is basically coming right up through here, coming right back up, closing back above the 40. I'd rather take the second signal. And why do I want to do that? It doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to get a better price, but what it'll do for me is it'll tell me if there's sellers here. If there's sellers and this is really a hard pullback, we won't get a pinch play. This will overrun, and we're possibly going to come down and retest this and potentially even come down and break down through here and break the 18 week. So it might sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but the reality is I just don't have to guess here. I know that we've got a little bit of contraction developing on the hourly chart. You see how the MACD crossed over? Not a big deal, but the fact that DI is making lower peaks here as this is pushing higher, it just suggests to me, and this is making higher lows, suggests to me that this wants to come in for a day or two. If that is an orderly come in, if it comes in for a day or two and is very orderly, then this will set up probably a zero line reversal and be ready to go within a couple days, and that'll agree with this pinch play. So one of my favorite pattern combinations is looking for a pinch play on this time frame and a zero line reversal on the lower time frame. So that's a great combination to be on the lookout for. That's what I'd be watching for, and that's kind of what my bias is right now. That's what I'm thinking. But if we get a couple big red bars here, I don't really want to have anything to do with this. All right. The reason why this has been very difficult, I think, it wasn't an easy call here at the 18 week. Typically, I would say, man, this looks great. Or, we get overrun here. We're looking for a little zigzag and a move and really just get going. The reason why I think it's a little bit more difficult is because the monthly chart has not checked back. It crossed above a declining 18 and it never checked back to the 18. So normally you cross over, you could even have a good bar like this, but then you pull back while the 18's cupping around, and then you're ready to go. This just keeps drifting higher, working higher without checking back here. So I'm leaning towards, yeah, maybe it pushes up a little bit and then consolidates. But I don't want to get really crazy bullish because we haven't had a check back here and we haven't paused enough to work off this little overbought condition we've created on the monthly chart. So you want to take trading plays. I'm telling my subscribers that we want to play weekly, daily trades, or you can obviously do weekly, daily, hourly setups as well. If we get the little pinch play here and a higher pivot low, that'll give me a lot more confirmation in taking some of these trades. Now, some of the stocks are trading better than the market. And if you get a trigger on those stocks, they didn't pull back as hard. They don't have overrun, right? I mean, you're not showing any real signs of weakness. Those stocks, you can take those trades, but you might be subject to a little bit of pullback risk in the short term just based on the overall market conditions. All right, that's the update for the week. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.